the presentation, and we're going to put the whole presentation on our website too.
Great, thank you.
Again, I'm Don Donaldson, Deputy County Administrator. I'm familiar with how the format of this was going to unfold, but we were here to ask for a few questions. We had a few questions posed to begin with. So we're going to start with Parks and then Public Works, and then I'll finish up with a few of the projects, and then we can open it up to questions, or we can try to answer questions along the way. But we'll.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Don. My name is Mark Lynch. I'm the Deputy Director with Martin County Parks and Recreation. And on behalf of the department, I'd like to welcome you all to Langford Park and the Vince Bikino Community Center. So the email I received from Don had asked me to address two particular sites that we have on the island, Jensen Public Beach and Stewart Beach. But I've also thrown a third in there just because we're doing a little bit of work at Bob Graham Beach. So if it's all right with y'all, I'll start north to south, and I'll address Jensen Beach, work my way to Bob Graham and Stewart Beach. So if you've been by Jensen Beach lately, we're currently doing some projects there. You'll notice on the west side of the parking lot, we're having a contractor regrade the swales and put in some rock in there so that those swales will hopefully remain at their grade longer, and it will allow sheet flow off the parking lot so the parking lots don't flood, and it'll help with the water quality by getting it in there and getting it settled. We're going to install a little bit of landscaping along with that project, clean out the drainage structures and the drains in that area, so hopefully the whole parking lot drains better. We're going to remove and replace some broken concrete at the north shower. The walkway area around there. We're going to install some brick pavers along the drive along if you're heading north and the parking lot's on your left and the walk is on your right. That walk, as you go along where the dune is just on the other side of it, there's some areas in there where we have some palm trees that are in squares of dirt surrounded by concrete, and then what we're calling eyebrows, because they're kind of shaped like eyebrows that are dirt. And those are constantly a problem with us with weeds coming up and trash building up. So we're going to have brick pavers put in those and make them more easily manageable and hopefully more attractive. We're going to install 8 light fixtures into the parking lot. These light fixtures will be similar to the fixtures that you see out on Northeast Ocean right in front of the park. The height of those fixtures will be no higher than 12 feet. Matter of fact, they'll be less than 12 feet. These fixtures will meet the DEP's requirements for turtle lighting on the island and all that. Those are replacing fixtures that were there that were pretty much destroyed in the 2004 hurricanes. Pavilion 4, which is the largest pavilion, the southernmost pavilion on Jensen Beach, we're going to remove and replace the decking and handrails, and we're going to use a product called Wear Deck, which is composite lumber. It's a little bit more expensive, but in what we've used in other places out on the island, it lasts close to 3 times as long as regular PT lumber. So it's definitely worth the money to do that for us. Then we're going to start a repaving and partial milling to the existing pavement in the park and repave the parking. We're going to address curbs, connections, drainage, ADA. We're going to restripe the parking lot, crosswalks, and handicap lanes, and put new parking stops as needed. And then we're working with the Sheriff's Department, and we're going to install security cameras at Jensen Beach. There'll be license plate reading cameras on every exit to that beach. We're trying to work to make it a more welcoming and family-friendly beach. So that's what I have on Jensen Beach. Does anyone have any questions on those projects? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question in terms of the resort using the parking lot right next to them. Do they provide money to Park and Recreation for using our lot?
So the question, I don't know if you all can hear, the question is I guess guests and staff maybe from the Hutchinson Island shores using our parking lot, and if Parks and Recreation receives any compensation or money from that, and no, we do not. Yes,
Are we putting in the security cameras on their request,
The security cameras are going in,
I know they're going in, did they request it?
they meaning,
Sheriff's Department.
No, the spa.
no, that was not requested by them. That was a conversation that started with us and the sheriff's department, the conversation started with increasing patrols in the area in Jensen Beach because there was a lot of less than appealing activities happening more on the north end. So the sheriff's department increased their patrols, and the conversation continued on to where it became evident that security cameras were going to help tremendously to control that problem. We've experienced that at Hutchinson Regional Park. That was one of the hot spots in the county for smash and grab type robberies on vehicles because of its close proximity to 95. We also experienced some theft of our property at that park. The sheriff's department believed with proximity to 95, it was easy for someone to do that and get on 95 and be gone. We installed security cameras at Hauppatioki, and it's dropped that to almost zero. So our hope is it will do similar at Jensen Beach. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think you could move the handicap parking closer to the beach facilities?
We'll certainly look into that. I'll make a note of
Would you
that.
please?
Yes.
Yeah, never thought I'd be asking such a question, but I got over.
We'll certainly look into that. Sir?
That money is coming from the county budget, or is it coming from?
Repeat the question, please.
So his question was the money to fund these projects, is it coming from the MSDU or is it coming from county? The bulk of that money, well, I believe it's all county. I don't believe there's any, to my knowledge, any MSDU monies of the MSDUs that you're referring to earlier that are coming to that. It's coming mainly out of the capital, the county's capital budget, the Parks Department's fixed asset replacement budget, and I believe there may be a little bit coming from the bed tax monies that we get for those projects.
What was the cost of that fire life-saving building that you put up there?
So the question was the cost of the lifeguard building there on Jensen Beach, and I'm sorry, that would be run through fire rescue and our facilities, general services, and I honestly don't know the answer to that question. Yes, sir.
The landscaping that was done in the median across from the resort, did the resort pay for that landscaping or not? Or-
I think these gentlemen can answer that question when they get up better. Parks was not involved, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anything else on Jensen? Yes, sir.
I have a question as a Hutchinson Island resident, not a representative of Florida Ocean Railway. We're talking about landscaping the swales there in the park. Do you know whether they plan on using native plantings? Some of the other swales have been replanted with non-native vegetation.
Yeah,
I would say we should move in the direction of putting native plantings on the island rather than...
So to answer the question, I don't have the plant list. I know spartina grass is one of the things we're planting, and I think that's the major planting there, but I can look into that.
Thank you.
Yes. Anything else on Jensen? I'll move down to Bob Graham Beach. If you all are not familiar, Bob Graham is our next beach access south of Jensen Beach. So what we're going to be doing there is some repaving and restriping of the parking lot area, remove and replace some cracked concrete on the sidewalks, and moving the shower to a better location. Currently the shower drains onto the parking lot, which is a problem. So we're going to move it to a more convenient location for those who use the beach and drain it not into the parking lot. Any questions on Bob Graham? Yes, sir.
The police security cameras up on that bridge?
No, we are not putting them at Bob Graham currently.
Wasn't that a major problem a few years ago?
It was a problem that the sheriff's department did I guess you would call it a sting on. It was pretty successful. And I have not had conversations with the sheriff's department since then, but I know it severely curtailed that activity after that sting. Yes, ma'am.
If you could get the answer to that gentleman's question about the cost of that lifeguard facility through fire rescue, would he have to pay to get that information? Or could you just tell him?
No, I think The cost you referred to, I'm assuming, came from a public records request that would have required a lot of documents. I don't think the cost, I don't think that, again, I'm not involved directly with that, but it should be a fairly easy to get, answer to get.
I would think so, but every time I want a public records request, somebody's asking me for $200. And I thought that since we went on computer, you could just push a button and you could find out what something cost.
Like I said, I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Since I'm not, again, fire rescue and general services would have that information, I would assume.
Okay.
I'm
I'll
sorry.
ask the question of the chairman of our commission next time I get up. Okay?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay.
Anything else on Bob Graham? So Stewart Beach would be next. So at Stewart Beach, we're currently in the design phase, I guess you would call it, for a new concession there. You've probably been out there, and the old Chef Shack has been closed down and shuttered. And the county is in the process. It's our goal to take that over and run it in-house, similar to the Sand Dune Cafe at Jensen Beach. So currently we're in design. That the new cafe will be located pretty much due east from the current one. If you're familiar with the large deck towards the center of Stewart Beach, it will, in essence, that deck will be extended westward to tie into the new concession. So when you go to the new concession, you'll be able to walk across its deck onto that existing deck. I hope I'm explaining that. I'm more of a visual person. I hope I'm explaining that well. That project will also include the demolition of the current Chef Shack concession building, and then the relocation of that deck restroom over closer to the new concession. It will include completely redoing the parking lot, improving the parking lot, and adding more parking. It will include, at the far south end of Stewart Beach, if you've seen, there's two maintenance buildings down there. One is a block building with a metal roof, and then a little bit further south is a wooden building that's very old and dilapidated. That older building will be removed, and we'll be adding some parking in that area. It will also include repaving, doing some milling and repaving to the entire parking lot. And then, if you're familiar, as you pull into Stewart Beach, you would turn, the museum is on your right, and you would turn right to get to our facilities for the beach. There will now be an additional, you'll be able to turn left, and there'll be a small parking lot there with a detention pond, and a crossover to get on the beach. That piece of property is owned by the state of Florida, and we entered into an agreement with them to operate it some years ago, and that agreement called for the county to provide a recreational purpose in operating that piece of equipment. So this is our fulfillment of that. So are there any questions on the Stewart Beach project?
Are the courts going to remain?
Yes, all that will remain. The only thing that's really going away is the old Chef Shack and the old maintenance building, and in addition of parking.
And timetable on this?
The timetable is, we're out to design now. Probably, I'm guessing, it will be out to bid sometime in the May timeframe. We'll probably start construction sometime in the August-September timeframe. We're still pretty early on that, so those dates could change, but that would be our projections right now. Yes, ma'am.
I called the number on the sign that was posted, and that is for the Stewart project, and I got Pete Walden. And he explained to me what you're explaining. It is complicated, and there will be no public hearings, he said. He said it's all been done administratively. So could someone from the county email Tiffy some site plans or some graphics or something we could put on our website so people could sort of understand? It's hard to relate all that and have it make sense. Pictures would tell 1,000 words. If somebody could email, we would appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. I think we'll have set all with currently now. It's still tentative, but I believe we're probably 90+%.
And we will say it is a tentative until approved, it just helps people visualize, and the more information we get out there, the fewer rumors and, speculation there is, as we put it out there from the county, they know it's true.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
If all this is being done with county funding, what would you do if you got MSTU funding in addition to the county funding?
So the question was, if all that's being done with county funding, what would we do if we got MSTU? That would be a budget
I mean, is there any hard sort of situations going
No,
on?
I mean, actually, when the MSTU is county funding, it's just restricted geographically how it's used and depending upon how the ordinance was created. Now, many years ago, actually, the MSTU that was created for Hutchinson Island did pay for specific park and fire rescue elements before the county had a consolidated system. So each district funded their own unique elements. So, typically, those policy directions regarding how you split up funding is something that the board decides, but regional funding or local funding, which is restricted to the MSTU, is first governed by the ordinance, can't be spent outside the ordinance, and then it depends on how the board county commissioners approve it. So MSTU funding in this particular case, Hutchinson Island, has been restricted in recent years to either beach nourishment or more recently, as described earlier, for landscaping improvements that were generated by a master plan. So that's, in general, that's just a quick answer to an answer that can generally be answered with it depends. Certainly, sometimes, communities will pay for amenities, on county right-of-way, on county projects. Various homeowners associations will actually write a check to the county, so it would be similar to that. So, except in this case, it would have to go before the Board of County Commissioners.
But what projects would you do with that MSTU money?
The MSTU money, as right now, what projects would I do? I think what you really mean is what projects that MSTU can only be spent geographically within the barrier island for a public purpose. This is a general statement, so it can be used on roads, parks, beaches, health and safety projects, but again, the practice is it's only being spent on a proportionate share of beach nourishment and for right-of-way and road improvements. But it could be used for other things.
Yes, ma'am.
When you enlarge the parking lot, will that get rid of sea grapes and other vegetation?
The parking lot will be somewhat reconfigured. So if there are existing sea grapes and palms in the existing landscape islands, if you will, they may have to go, but the plan does include for new islands to be made and landscaping to be put into those. So hopefully when I get the drawing to y'all, you'll be able to see that. Anything else on Stewart Beach? Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't know if this is for Mr. Donaldson or not, but I understand that they're going to close the old firehouse and then build one across the street. When they close the old firehouse, is that going to become part of Stewart Beach?
Yeah, I'll address that, but
So if that's all, yes, sir.
Not particularly for Stewart Beach, but two beaches on the island. Can we get some signage up there about staying off the dunes? And on the crossovers to the town beaches, stations for doggy days, that type of stuff.
So the first one was, I'm sorry, what was the first?
Signage for
Oh.
the dunes.
The signage for the dunes, we can certainly look into that. We have signs on some of the dunes, but we can
Appropriate.
No smoking signs, too.
more to the state. As far as the doggy bags, we can look into that, but that's would be an increased level of service that would cost a little bit of money. I realize it's not much, but, I have to work hard to balance all of our needs, and we have a backlog of needs, and so,
More plastic on